Chips. We're gonna change F5 but the Marumo to race.
The state must come out and bail out capital. I think we are again in the same situation where inflation is going to go crazy, people losing their jobs, and the whole system basically faltering. Mm-hmm. It will be money from the people that is brought to keep capitalism alive from its deathbed. So capitalism is kept alive in a sense by its agents. But I don't think that it is insurmountable to really get rid of the capitalist system. The examples of Latin America you talk about now, Venezuela, Ecuador, even Mexico, Cuba is still standing there.
Oh yeah. It's our beacon of hope. Even though they are imposing sanctions and shit like that, they're like, fuck you.
Yes, I mean, Cuba give us the hope. China is an interesting one because whilst it is capitalist, it is not the Western type of capitalism.
Yes.
It's a
and I'm so sorry, I was about to argue that it's not even communism as well. It's sort of like a hybrid system where they impose their own beliefs within the framework of capitalism, if I'm characterizing it correct.
That's right. So the Chinese got one thing right, where the state determines the pace and the direction of capitalist accumulation. And I mean, that is an easy way to solve most of your problems, where the state dictates to capital. I mean, Jack Ma, for example. In China, if you try to play bigger than the state quickly cuts you down. And Chinese have been able to get out of poverty as a result of a framework which provides a national direction of development, and capital is then coerced into operating within a national vision. So I think China provides a very good example of how we can work with the capitalist system by making it subservient to the project of national development. Maybe that is your best hope in the medium term, whilst you work towards undermining capital accumulation in the long run.
I think what the reason why I get to this point, sorry, is that I'm 32 years old and I'm observing my country through democracy, and I realize that every time a promising bunch of politicians emerges, the capitalists will find a way to buy them off to a point where they sing their own tune. Even within the Fizz Must Fall movement, there are celebrities within that. If you're a poet, you are then co-opted to do poetry in advertisements as opposed to be a radical poet. I'm just doing a cultural critique as I look through our people, and I'm like, these niggas will always be ahead because we will always need. Tina, we will always have appetites that will need to be fulfilled, and the capitalists will always be there to say, you know what? Instead of losing an industry worth trillions, let me use 5 million to satisfy this one and use this one or this bunch as our leaders to cause distraction. That's why they are mostly ahead most of the time. And then, of course, they invent social medias that has our information. They track what we say on the phones. They know ahead of time what mischievous bullshit we are planning against them. On top of the fact that amongst us, as we are planning, they have their own agents as well. So I'm looking at it from many angles to say it's almost impossible that we will get to a point where we are burning capitalism down.
Well, I mean, it will be a life of a complete nightmare if we're to imagine that we can't change society towards a society that puts the interests of people first instead of profits.
Yeah.
Now, capitalism has won. I mean, up to now, when there were examples of leaders in Africa, for instance, take Thomas Sankara, was a great example of what you can do with the state to serve the people. He was murdered. All these people, I mean, in the Congo, Lumumba, here in Mozambique, they killed Samora. In South Africa, they killed, even before they got into power, people like Biko. And so capitalism, in a sense, is indeed streets ahead. But it is also a vulnerable system. You just need a layer of people that says, yeah, basta, no more. And the system retreats. The examples that we make today, Venezuela is a good example, where they put up a big fight through Hugo Chavez initially. And his example of a state that serves the people is being entrenched. Of course, it's a big struggle, there are big reversals, but there is attempts to put the people first. In a sense, we have to keep on preaching the hope for change. We cannot give up the hope that society can be transformed to serve the interests of all.
Yeah. It feels like if you pursue that, you are pursuing a noble cause. Also, on the same coin, you could be wasting a lifetime. But then, if you don't pursue it, you are also wasting a lifetime. It is
a thankless.
Yeah.
I mean, I've wasted a lot of my life already.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the first people to oppose you are the same people that you're trying to help.
Yes, I mean. So sometimes I do question myself. I should have become a big lawyer, or I should be teaching at the university. I should be writing my books instead of trying to organize a revolutionary movement. I should have a very comfortable life as a consequence. And in fact, I was being recruited even by Thabo Mbeki to work in the state system. If I put my self-interest first. But I do believe that there must always be a layer in any generation that is sacrificed for the possibility of change. Another time, that layer will succeed. It has to succeed. We have to keep the hope alive.
Yeah.
I can't just believe that this is it. I can't believe this is the end of history.
Absolutely.
I can't believe this is life, a life of suffering in the midst of plenty. This is the thing. We have the means to make life good for everyone. But the minority, evil minority, has kept to itself all the goods that God has given us. And we are struggling to simply wrest power from them and distribute these goods for the good of all. The revolutionary project is a very simple proposition, quite frankly. It is a question of everybody has housing, has good health care, has education, has drinking clean water. I mean, what more? This is what life is about, and the revolution has to answer those simple questions. And a minority has decided that it will take all the wealth and the majority will suffer. And I don't think that's an ethical way of being. And when we get born, we must commit to transform society.
Yeah, very compelling points there. I don't want to push back a lot. I wanted your point of view as I proposed that, Uguti. This is going to be a system that always wins, but you can't, unfortunately, you can't reduce yourself to accepting that because you're going to die inside. So maybe you might have a heart attack within a year or two.
It is a nightmare to believe, to accept that this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a total nightmare to think that we live, and this is going to be the permanent state of humanity, that the minority perpetuates its power over a majority that suffers when we have enough for everyone to live well. I mean, for me, it's very hard to accept that status quo.
Yeah, I've worked it out too, and it's reached that point that, okay, this is what's going to happen, but you can't just accept it. Slavoj Žižek was writing for a lot of publications. To anyone who doesn't know, Slavoj Žižek is a Slovenian philosopher, activist, and so on and so forth. Check his videos out on YouTube. He was a darling of media when he was speaking one way, and when he spoke slightly in favor of Donald Trump, but in a nuanced way, he was trying to make a point about people and why they lean towards certain people, but we don't have time to unpack his statements. He started losing his gigs. I started consuming you when I was 18, 19, 20, 2008, 2009, 2010, through articles, Times Live, Mail and Guardian. The minute that you spoke different languages as an independent human being, as you are, those started dwindling. You never lost your ability to write. You still have a sharp pen, but you lost those jobs. They stopped coming. Let's take us through your journey in South African media, and what do you think they wanted you to say? What were you useful for to them that you were no longer useful at some point as you started saying other things?
Yeah, man, I was a superstar, emerging superstar.
Yes, you were.
I mean, I was writing for all of them.
Yes.
And they were paying me good money. I mean, the Sowetan alone, I mean, I had a gig of 2 columns a month. They were paying me about 12,000 Rand back then.
So you're literally writing 2 times a month?
Yes, and about 600 words. I mean, which I can do over an hour.
Yeah.
And Mail and Guardian paid me good money. I was one of the well-paid columnists for the Mail and Guardian contributors. City Press paid me. So I wrote for everyone. You see, my emphasis at the time was an attack on the ANC.
Oh, yes, yes.